Hello, and welcome back to Return of the Obra Dinn. In the last episode we finished off the chapter of the Doom, and we are now ready to make our way to the next chapter.
Oh no! You're cut!
Don't leave me.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother I tried my best
Aye.
to pull him back, to save him.
You tell her yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
Alright. We immediately have some context there. First of all, we must remember that this is the man who was holding the rope when we saw the explosion. That leaves this man as being Pete. So, searching through the crew manifest, eventually we come across Peter Milroy, the midshipman, who was blasted by the explosion. We then have this man, tending to him. This is our first mate, William Hoskett. Outside of this room, there is a lot more to see. Firstly, we have this man, who we might remember was in the chapter The End, descending the stairs. We also have this man, also from the chapter The End, holding his hand to his ear. We heard a shout out for a Brennan. So, looking through the crew manifest, we can presume that this man is Henry Brennan. Another 3 strands of fate confirmed. There is more to see here though. First and foremost, there are 2 more bodies on the floor. The first of which we cannot identify, and the same with the second. There is also a trail of blood leading into this room, but we can't identify anything to do with that yet. Interestingly, this body here is a man who we saw carrying several guns to the top deck during the Doom. We will return to that later. There is nothing else to see in this scene as yet, but the other scenes from this chapter will get quite complicated. Chapter 9: Escape. So, we don't know who this man is, but we do know that he was knifed given the audio log. But we don't yet know who by. The pocket watch then leads us to the first of the bodies on the floor. So, we now know a few things. First of all, we have that Brennan has clubbed this individual, whoever they may be. We can also see a gun in their hand, meaning that presumably this man on the floor was killed by our current victim. There is more to see, however. William Hoskett is running down, and we can see this man crawling along the floor with the knife in his back. We still can't identify who attacked him, but we can see that the further back we go, the more clues we will uncover. This is all there is to see in this scene, but the next one opens up a whole different set of events that we can witness. Escape, Part 5. This man was clubbed by Henry Brennan. The pocket watch then leads us to the other body on the floor.
Captain Cameron was first.
You have a plan?
Yes. Take ship and sail east. Trade wretched fish and shells for gold. Hey! Who's there?
Mutiny! Mutiny!
Fresh bastard!
We heard quite a lot going on there. First of all, we can confirm that the body on the floor was indeed shot by the other body. We still see our victim here with the knife crawling away, unclear as to which of the two stabbed him. But we can now head above deck. We see Brennan and Hoskett on top deck, and heading up here, we can see another body being thrown overboard. This body is currently unidentifiable. The man throwing him overboard is the man who survives in the end. Well, is killed in the end, survives until the end. We also see on top deck Captain Robert Witterell, looking annoyed. We will return to exactly why that may be in the next scene. This is one of the scenes that is the most complicated to spot everything in. With two separate timelines going on within the same set of scenes, you have to be very quick in searching for everything. Escape, Part 4. We don't know a great deal about this man, other than that he was shot. We don't know who by, or who he is. The pocket watch now leads us to this body being thrown overboard.
Let them go!
So, once more we have a lot going on. First and foremost, we see Emily Jackson, leaving on a lifeboat, alongside a man who we can't yet identify. The man whose body was being tossed off the side of the ship has been shot by Miss Emily Jackson. We also have a body on the floor, currently unidentifiable, and we have not yet seen his death, though we will come back to that. We also have the captain pointing a gun, but not having fired it. Back below decks, there is more to be seen. We now know who knifed our victim. It is this man. We don't know his identity yet, but as soon as we do, we'll be able to work out a lot of different fates. We see this man who shot our other victim, using his own gun, as we can see, is in this back room, the trail of blood still there. Escape, Part 3. We don't know who this man is, but we do know that he was shot. And this time we know who by. Emily Jackson. The pocket watch leads us to another body, the one on top deck.
Last one. Move quick.
You'll not take the last punch!
So, we heard a few more details here. We heard a shout of, "Paul, look out," meaning that this man is most likely named Paul. Looking through the crew manifest, we find that Paul Moss is the one person named Paul, and indeed he's a steward, which aligns with his uniform. He's been killed with a sword by this man, who we will later identify. Heading back down below deck, there is once again more to find. We can see our midshipman overhearing the talk of mutiny, but we can also see this body here, one arm torn off. We don't yet know who this is, but soon enough all will come to light. What we can see aboard the ship also is Miss Jane Bird. Escape, Part 2. We know an identity, Paul Moss, and we know that he was killed with a sword, but not who by. The final body for this scene is that below decks that we saw with the arm torn off.
Put me down! Let go!
Easy now. You're in a bad way.
It's the squid. Where is my Frenchman?
The squid's gone. Your mate was torn apart.
The dad. The beast is dead. How? How did you kill it?
We didn't. It left with the storm. Captain came up from the hold. Said he chased it off. You should rest.
A curse like that does not live for nothing.
The audio log here is very important. We heard the word verdammt. This leads us to believe that this would be the Austrian and the bosun, Alfred Klestil. The other point we heard was, "Where is my Frenchman?" And we see here that the bosun's mate is from France. Therefore we can conclude that this man must be Alfred Klestil, the bosun. we know that the bosun's mate, whenever we identify them, was torn apart, and we can also see that this man has an arm missing, and so was torn apart also. We can now see our midshipman coming up from the lower hold, along with the captain, headed up to top deck. We also see this man, William Hoskett, emerging from a room, looking on the map of the ship. We can see that he has come out of the first mate's cabin. This is a useful thing to notice. People walking out of certain rooms can give a lot of clues as to their identities. Of course, we already know who William Hoskett is, but in future, this will be an important feature to remember. We have now gathered all that we can from this scene, so we simply need to wait until the door opens and we can move on to the next sequence of memories. Escape, Part 1. For once we have a fate that we can fill in. Alfred Klestel, who was torn apart by a terrible beast. There were 4 disappearances in this chapter. We will soon enough find out what fate befell all of them. We now need to continue looking around. Of first note, there is this door which is open with a bone out of the window. But there is also this path below deck which is now available, which leads us to various different places. But of note is the scene that we will be going into next, from this cow skull.
Hit her here. One swing. Get through the skull in stone or brain. I'll cut her throat when you've done it. Here? Yeah. Come on before she kicks up. You all right there, sir?
Never been on a farm, Chuck?
Mind your shoes now.
We have some more information to gain from this scene. Firstly, this man, who is being rather ill, is referred to as Charlie. If we look through the manifest, there is Charles Minor, the bosun's mate. However, it's unlikely that this is our Charlie that is being referred to. Instead, this is more likely to be Charles Hershtick, the midshipman, especially based off his uniform. The reason I say that the uniform suggests he is a midshipman is because of the other 2 in this scene alongside the butcher. We have Peter Milroy, a midshipman, and this man, another one of the midshipmen. The reason for this is their uniforms are all very similar, and we have seen that this man who was knifed went to the midshipman cabin. Therefore, it is safe to assume that all 3 of these men are the midshipmen. Given that we have identified that this man is a midshipman, we can also now determine his identity as the one remaining midshipman, Thomas Lanker. Meanwhile, this man is our butcher, Emil O'Farrell, also from Ireland, which matches up with the accent we heard in the audio log. The final thing which confirms these 3 as midshipmen is the role of midshipman on a ship. If we go to our glossary of terms at the back, we see that under midshipmen they assist various officers and tradesmen in order to learn ship operations. In the audio log, we heard that the butcher was teaching these men what to do, thus confirming that they are midshipmen. Looking at the rest of this scene, there is more to see. We have this man with a pet monkey, who we still can't identify, but we know that he was on the lifeboat in the escape. We also have these men carrying a body up the stairs, whilst these two, from the Formosan royalty, watch on. We will continue to see more of the Formosan royalty, along with these three, in the next scene. Chapter 2. A Bitter Cold. For this scene, we have no identification to do. The dead body that we investigated was the skull of the cow, and so a large cow slaughtered for its meat is all that we need from this scene. But now the pocket watch leads us to this body.
Well? Same as the other fellow. Some lung disease. Non-consumption. Made worse by the cold.
Will it spread?
If so, we'd all have it. They must have picked it up at the Alaska house. I checked all hands just now, and everyone is healthy.
And him? What are his chances?
I gave him some laudanum. We'll see.
With this scene, we learn a few new things. First of all, we have our dead body, who has succumbed to an illness of some kind. We can also see Martin Parrott, our third mate, talking to who we can now presume to be the surgeon. And this is the important one. Our surgeon goes by the name Henry Evans. You may recall the name Henry Evans from earlier on. Indeed, this book was given to us by one Henry Evans, who asked for it to be sent to the French Office of Affairs in Morocco. The other important point is that in the escape, under the Disappearances tab, Henry Evans is one of our disappearances. As such, we can now fill in several fates at once. Henry Evans is alive in Africa, along with Miss Jane Bird. That is not all we can determine. We have more from the disappearances in the escape. Emily Jackson is also alive in Africa, as is this as yet unknown individual. There is more to do in this scene, however. We see this man leant back on a chair, but still in this room, suggesting that he is the surgeon's mate, James Wallace. Heading out of this room, we can see this man knelt over another dead body, with this man alongside. This will be the body we are led to next. The Formosan royalty is still watching from the sidelines. There is not much else to see in this scene, but this area out here being accessible is something that we will want to bear in mind for once we finish this chapter. We will see more of the men over here in the final part of the Bitter Cold. A Bitter Cold, Part 2. We don't know who this man is yet, but we do know that he succumbed to an illness. The pocket watch then leads us to this body on the floor for the final part of A Bitter Cold.
Saya tutup. Aku terpilih.
I will begin this scene by pausing, because there is a lot to look at in this scene. Once again, I will be going through things quite quickly. First of all, we hear calls for Syed. We can presume then that this man is Syed. Around him are several others. This hammock at the back here is empty with number 53. We can presume that this man has left that hammock and therefore he is number 53 in the crew manifest. We then have number 51 here, so we can fill in his identity as well. This leaves but one man from this group. There is nothing that guarantees his identity, but given that he is alongside the rest of the group here, we will presume that he is number 52, Abraham Akbar. Three more fates complete, but we are not nearly done with this scene. We heard Russian in the audio log alongside these three men, meaning that we can presume that these three are Russian. Unfortunately, we can't determine a great deal more than that, because if we look for the Russians, two of them are seamen, and one of them is a topman. And we don't have any defining clues to finish this off. Something that is important, however, is this smoking pipe here, although that won't come into play until much later. We also have an arm with a tattoo of a woman on it, corresponding to number 37. I will have to come back to this scene to finish off the various points to notice. For now, we can fill in that Syed succumbed to an illness. Thankfully, this scene is one where a door opens, giving us plenty of time to look around now. Over here we have several hammocks. 59, 38, 41, 40, and 39. Of note is the shoes. Number 39 has white shoes with dark soles. Meanwhile, number 40 has black shoes with black soles, alongside the rest of the crew here, aside from this one, number 38, who has black shoes with light soles. This is not yet relevant, but it is something that we will spot later on. Of note is the numbers on these hammocks. Number 59 in the crew manifest. Matches with George Shirley, but the other numbers, which were 39, 40 and around that area, are the Chinese topmen. We have identified Wei Li already, but the other three we will identify later thanks to their shoe colours. The final point that we may be able to work out is we have a hammock number 47, against which is this pipe. We also have hammocks 45 there, but this doesn't really allow us to work out which of these men is which. So, for now, we will simply continue on to the next scene. With a bitter cold complete, we will carry on to the next chapter in the next episode. For now, I will simply make my way back up to find the starting point here. But join me next time when we will launch into the next chapter.